Can you imagine if you went to work and someone was wearing something and it's like very out of their normal wardrobe? Would you address it with that person? Would you be like, "Oh, hey, what's with this scarf? You don't usually wear a scarf. Also, it's July and it's 103 degrees. Why are you wearing a scarf?" Would you acknowledge it, or because you know that they're making a play, would you kind of just leave it alone? Be like, "I see that you're trying to do a thing. I'm not gonna touch it." Because I feel like I would like to do that bit, be like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" and then just not acknowledge it, but then keep looking in their direction. Maybe throw a couple questions their way. Be like, "Oh, hey, I've been meaning to ask you," and then you see them get excited. Be like, "Yeah, yeah. What have you been?" They adjust the the scarf. Yeah, yeah. What is it you've been meaning to ask me? No, I was just that write up. Did you have a chance to finish that? If not, I would love to go through it with you together. Maybe do a little bit of learning. They'd be like, "Oh, no, actually, yeah, no, I haven't had time to do it because I was actually busy shopping the other day." They find a way to loop it back in. Yeah, no, I was shopping. They leave it open ended for you to again ask. It's a perfect layup. They're basically giving it to you. They're opening it up. They want you to slam it down, but you don't take it. You don't take the bait because you're stronger than that, and we're stronger than that, right? So if someone between you and I was wearing something and it was completely out of the ordinary, we wouldn't acknowledge it, right? We would just leave it alone because that's funnier. But no matter how funny it is, it can get very like hot and humid. And I'm very hot and humid in this. So I'm going to take it off. But that is basically, the bit is to do something like that. Wear a piece of clothing and then never acknowledge it. But I'm not strong enough to do that. See, I can only be funny in real life. I don't know how to be funny online. So, let's just start this podcast, right? Because when there's a chance not to be funny, that's where this podcast fits in. But no, the reason I wore that is I needed a gimmick. You see, last episode we only got 7 likes. What the fuck? But no, the real reason, also, let's not do the bit in real life. Let's, acknowledge the mask and give this video a like. The real reason I'm wearing, or I was wearing this mask is because I just spent the last week in Mexico City. As you probably saw, last week's episode was uploaded on time. Yes, that means I was on vacation because I scheduled the post. When I'm actually here in person, that's when episodes come out late because I can be lazy and procrastinate up until the last day. So like this episode, yeah, it'll be a little, a few hours later than it should be. But let me tell you about the trip. It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. I'm going to tell you about Mexico City. I've been to Mexico a few times, but never Mexico City, the heart of Mexico City. The heart of Mexico is Mexico City. I didn't realize I took geography in high school, and I know things about the world, a little bit. I didn't realize Mexico was like just cradling the balls of Texas. Did you know this? It's just right under there. Mexico is like a jockstrap. Just, it's right. That little horn of Texas, you're right under there. And so the time zone lines up with Texas as well. You're 2 hours ahead, it would be, from California. And that was nice. I didn't realize that, but that was really cool. And so when we flew over there, right, you took a flight. It was just from SF to Mexico. I don't remember where the airport is. The airport in Mexico. You know the one. I don't have to fucking, the one. But on the way to Mexico, there was this family that sat in front of us. It was me, my mom, and sister. And I always take the aisle seat. And so it was, row of three, kind of that setup. And there were these 2 kids in the middle and left seat in front of me. And then, the mother directly in front of me. And then the dad was on the aisle seat on the other side. And so the daughter, very young, probably like elementary school or whatever, was in the middle seat. And before the flight started, she turned around and she just kept looking at me through the crack in the seat and just getting an eye full of this. And I didn't have the mask on, so I don't know if there was much to look at. And she was just staring me down. And I was like... And then she just went with I wish it was a little, not as sticky, hand. And she just grabs my knee. And I was like, I don't know what to do here. I went to school. I'm like an educated person, is what I advertise as. I was not taught what to do in that situation. But it was a quick grab. She just kind of held it, looked at me, and then let go of it. And then she just kept staring at me for the next 3 seconds as if I did something wrong. I was like, what did you want me to do? Did you want me to grab your knee? That you realize that you don't know the optics of this world, kid. That's not a good look. Although apparently you can get away with that nowadays, and I'm not gonna finish that joke. I run for office, but no, this girl grabbed my knee, and then she committed that crime, and so the brother of hers, he was absolved of all crimes. So he didn't do anything bad, except he did, because when we landed in Mexico, the plane touches down, and that's already a stressful experience. You're like, I want to make sure this lands safely, and so the wheels hit the ground. You're going Mach speed straight down the runway, and you have enough to worry about, right? Flight attendants start looking for their eyes, being like, "Are you guys scared?" Because if you're scared, I have a reason to be scared. But if you're not, okay, that's fine. Maybe something is bad, but you've just been trained not to react, right? That's part of your training. You don't scare people when things are getting scary, right? You go around passing out wipes I'm not going to use. They're just going to sit in my pocket, my cargo pants, and then fucking dry up over the next 6 months until I forget about them. And I try to wash those cargo pants, the 1 out of 2 times I do it a year, and then boom, it fucking, the little wipe packet explodes and ruins my pants. And then I can't tell are the pants ruined because I wasn't washing them, or the pants ruined because of the stupid little wipe. I don't know. But when we land, the boy, the brother, he just starts saying over and over, very loud, right? Small kid, loud voice. He goes, sorry, small kid, big voice. That's funnier because they're antonyms. But the boy goes, landed, 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 landed. And I was like, someone got to land one just on him. He did it maybe like 15 times. And with each one, I was like, this has got to be the last one. And it never was. It felt like an encore for a subpar movie, but it's like it has an actor that's been disgraced by the industry for a while. So now this is like their big break. And so people really ham it up. They're like, woo, this is your moment. This is you. But during that entire, standing ovation, you wonder, is everyone going to like sit down now? Or are we going to be done? That's how I felt. That kid's fucking landed. It felt like a standing ovation that I was waiting for it to just cease. There's a small part of you that's like, maybe this plane should just hit something real quick. Maybe let's just clip something on the runway real quick so it shuts them up. It gives them something else to think about rather than the plane just landing. But no, I'm glad we were safe. Safety is more important than an annoying ass kid. And then we get to Mexico and they drive us, we get an Uber and they drive us to the hotel. And something you immediately learn about being in Mexico City, I don't know if it's everywhere in Mexico, because the only other places I've gone in Mexico, I've traveled to because of a cruise ship. They come and dock you into the port, and then you kind of just take a bus around for a minute. You never get to really be in Mexico and like take, the everyday person's travel, a car. And so we finally, I got to take an Uber for the first time in Mexico, and it was about a 30-40 minute drive to the hotel. And something you immediately learn is, on streets, they have lanes on the ground on this road, and those are the lanes you're supposed to stay in. And it's somewhat of a boundary, right? You're supposed to stay within those lines. But in Mexico, those aren't boundaries. They're more of like a suggestion. It's a direction. It's kind of like, how the lines go this way? They're vertical lines. The lines are just telling you which way to go. They don't know. It's kind of just, you have creative control out there. There's a lot of just, yeah. I swear to God, at one point, I was one of 5 cars shoulder to shoulder in a 2-lane road. I don't know how that's even possible. But there were many a time that, your Uber driver is just riding the lane of a road for like half a mile. And you're like, okay, you're going to pick a side? Or and you're probably wondering like, oh, well, there were probably no cars around. No, we're right behind like 2 cars. They're kind of going to decide like, oh, what are you going to do based on, what I do? There's a lot of decisions being made in the moment or just not being made at all. But I liked it. It was exciting. But during every Uber ride, I'm like, could this be it? Is this going to be how it is? You start imagining the headline. American family, fun getaway, a week in Mexico City, turns tragic. Talk about a car wreck. No, that's not fun. And I don't think it's fun because it's me I'm joking about. And that's the only person I care about, yeah? Anyways, we were there for what? It was, I think, 5 full days. And on the first day, we were taking these boat rides. Ooh, I wish I looked up the name of these boats, but they're those classic boats where the mariachi, the bands go around. They sing to you if you pay them 300 pesos. You can pick any song you want. So The boat, you're on a boat about 20 people. We would pool together some money and then tell them, yeah, la cucaracha, do that one. They're like, we know that one, amigo. And then they would do it. And then we would watch them. And it was fun. They had these boats going by and they're like, margarita, Paloma, anyone want that? And, those are all very standard things. Mariachi and, Margarita, Palomas, those are things you've heard of. But has anyone ever heard of a guy with a hawk? I'm not talking about Tony, Mr. Anthony Hawk. No, no, no. There was a gentleman, young man, and he was walking around just with a hawk. I'll try to see if I have a picture and just put it right here. This guy just was walking around with a hawk. He was like, you guys want a picture with this? And you could pay him to take a picture with the hawk. And I was like, that's awesome. I'm like, because I just kept staring at the hawk. I didn't get a picture with it. Well, I didn't pay for a picture with it. It's in the background, I think, of this picture, right? But that's fucking, yeah, who thought of that? That's great. Because if you're in this little canal on this boat, sipping a margarita, listening to mariachi music, the last thing you're probably thinking is like, has anyone got a photo up with a fucking hawk? But it makes sense. Anytime you're at a party, right? They always put a photo booth for couples to fucking take photos of, and then, they can keep that little curio, that little souvenir in their desk drawer. So that when they break up in 6 months, they're going to have a hard decision in their mind and be like, am I going to throw away that little 4 square photo of me and him? Or so I hold on to it in the effort that we have a meet cute in a year from now at that local bakery that we both like. We both know our schedule. Do I think he's going to show up there when I show up there and beg for me in his hand in marriage? And we're going to get back together, and it'll actually be the break that brings us closer than ever, right? There's an Asian practice. Is it Chinese? It's called kintsugi, I believe, right? Is that where it's like you repair broken pottery by forging it together with gold, and then it becomes like, ooh, even more valuable or whatever, because it's like a broken thing that was pieced together by something valuable as gold. I think it's called kintsugi, but is that what that relationship is going to do, right? Those are the questions you're forced to confront when there's a photo booth at a wedding, at a fucking bachelor party, at a graduation party. Shut the fuck up with the photo booth, okay? Garv, didn't you have a graduation party in high school and you guys had a photo booth? Yeah, and it was owned by Cordell Firestone. He had a fucking photo booth company, and he helped us out. Is that a big deal? Watch your goddamn tone. Okay, I don't like how you're coming this episode. But that's like the direct equivalent, right? If you're on water, you can't put a photo booth out there. What, then you're going to plug it into nothing? You're going to make it solar powered? They haven't made that technology yet. That's going to make every outdoor wedding insufferable. I've never been to a wedding, so I don't know what I'm complaining about. That's crazy, right? I'm 26, never been to a wedding. I think I went to one when I was younger. But it's like younger in my life to where I'm like, I don't remember it. So it basically didn't happen. Like apparently I broke one of my legs. The reason I say one of my legs is because I don't know which one I broke. I've just been told, yeah, you broke one of your sister and you were playing in the living room, and yeah, she kind of like launched you a little bit and your bones are a little brittle, which is weird because you're supposed to have like soft, malleable bones as a kid, but I don't know, you just gave away immediately. So yeah, you broke one of your legs. I have no recollection of that. I've just been taking that at face value. That could be that could be cap. That could be just a made up bullshit. I could have been gaslit into having a broken leg. But no, apparently that happened, and I'm just taking their word for it. And that's the same thing with a wedding. I think I've been to one wedding. Been told I've been to one wedding. I don't have any memory of it. So for all intents and purposes, I've not been to a wedding. I'm not wedding close with anyone, is what I always tell people. There's like, I got friends, but like there's no one, right? Where I'm like, that now I think there's maybe like 3 people. If they got married, and they would be like, yeah, I guess we need to fill some seats. Are you free that day? And then maybe I'd get an invite. But there's no one where I'm like, oh, I'm for sure. I mean, when they get married, I'll be at the fucking wedding. So yeah, it makes sense why the guy had a hawk. Because that's exactly what's missing. It's like a portable photo booth. It makes sense. It's a thing that you see where you're like, oh my God, we have to get a picture of that. Well, you wouldn't be in the hawk. You would, okay. It's a little different, but about the same. You know what I'm saying. And then later that day, we toured the Frida Kahlo Museum. She's a famous Mexican painter of the early 20th century. And we got to go to her house where she was unfortunately bedridden. She had I forgot what it was, polio maybe when she was younger, and it caused a lot of health complications. I think she had to get one of her legs amputated or something. And she apparently was in a very tragic, damaging bus accident in her late teens. And then, yeah, she was like bedridden, I think, a lot of her life. But she was a phenomenal Mexican painter. And so we got to tour her house, which is now a museum. And when we were waiting in line to get into this museum, we came across these three older Filipino people. And one of them was a woman, or sorry, two of them were women. One was a guy. And one of the women asked me, she said, how tall are you? And I was like, oh, how tall do you think I am? She was like 6'5". And I was like, close, 6'3", but thank you so much. And she was like, yeah, you're tall. And that's rare. Indians are usually pretty short, right? I was like, yeah, yeah, I think if you look at the height per capita over in the subcontinent on the other side of the world, I think it kind of runs a little short there. And they're like, even your sister, she's kind of tall. I was like, oh, yeah. And they were like, how tall are you? My sister's 5'10". So she said, I'm 5'10". And they were like, yeah, you guys are so tall and beautiful too. You guys should be models. I was like, stop it. And then they told us their story, and they were like, oh yeah, the two women, they were 71 years old, 69 years old. They were sisters, and then the guy was their brother, 65 years old. But maybe I shouldn't have read too much into the model comment, because then later in the conversation, the one that said it revealed that, oh yeah, I lost my glasses a few days ago, so I can't really see that straight. I was like, oh, okay. That's... Are we going back on the model thing, or you were close enough, right? Nearsighted or farsighted? Which one? I can tell people what you said, right? That holds weight. I can use that. This isn't like getting perfect attendance in elementary school one year, right? Where it's like, who gives a fuck when you're applying to colleges? This is like an Eagle Award. This is something, for some reason, people care about for the rest of your life, right? Because it happened once when you were younger. I can use these credits anywhere, right? This doesn't apply to just this conversation. But they were very sweet, and we ran into them more as we were touring the museum. They were awesome. What wasn't awesome, however, that day is we took a bus everywhere. And my sister, in the beginning of the trip, she was like, you're going to feel like a giant here. I was like, why is that? She was like, well, I don't know, people are that tall in Mexico City. I was like, is that true? I was like, huh, I didn't know that. And then we walked around the city once, and I was like, oh no, I feel insanely huge. I feel gigantic. What the fuck is wrong with me? Just walking around, felt like Frankenstein's monster. I don't know about that story. I'm just saying, I'm big and awkward looking. Just apologizing to people. Sorry. They were like, what for? I'm like, I don't know. I just don't like that I'm up here, you're over there, you know? But people were very short there. And I don't know if that changes their design decisions, because the bus we took to drive around that day, we didn't take a bus. Every day was like a different thing we did. So sometimes we took Uber, sometimes we took buses if they were with a tour agency. But on that bus, I hit my head twice. I hit my head once getting into my seat, because they put that rack for like backpacks and like coats and stuff that people will forget. And I don't know why, I fucking just clipped my head on that. And I was like, oh my God. Even the people in the back seat were like, oh. I was like, no, it's all good. I'm good. I kind of stumble a little bit. They're like, grab his arm. No, I was fine. It didn't, I laughed it off. But then getting off the bus, I don't know what the fuck's going on in the beginning of the bus, the front of the bus. They got this weird little shelf, and then I banged my head on that on the way out. I was like, oh my God, 2 for 2. That's crazy. And then later in the day, yeah, when we were touring the Frida Kahlo Museum, they had a little gift shop, a little outdoor gift shop. It was under this metal hut. And yeah, it fucking just straight up banged my head against that. So I think I have CTE. If you're noticing me be a little different, that's because my body's falling apart. I knocked all the marbles out of it, and I have sunburn. The right side of my forehead, it's all crusty. You probably can't see it. But if certain parts of my body, right, my neck and my forehead, if they start falling off, well, maybe look the other way, all right? Don't be weird about it, okay? It's actually a cool thing for some animals to do. They get like nice skin afterwards. So I'm just shedding my puppy coat, as they call it. Schnauzers. They're like, I think technically hypoallergenic. And then I was watching a video online, and this lady was like, yeah, my schnauzer, what the fuck? It's shedding everywhere. I thought these things were not supposed to shed. And someone was like, oh yeah, it's shedding its puppy coat. When it's older, that's when the hair grows in. And that's the thing. Schnauzers don't have fur. They have hair. And that's why they don't shed. There's probably some hair. Like after I take a shower, I know there's fucking hair everywhere. Because look at this fucking mop up top. But then, yeah, on that metal gift shop hut, I just straight up slammed my head. And it was bad. That one was the worst one. It was loud. It like echoed. Some people eating, got the local coffee. It's like $7 probably. No, everything in Mexico was also super, super cheap. The conversion, I don't know what it is, crazy. Took a fucking 30-minute Uber ride, $8 or something, Like, what are we doing? That's crazy. But it was loud. There was even a lady in the gift shop, and I have never pulled a gun on someone, but I now don't have to because I know what that experience feels like. Because the way that lady looked at me was terrifying. It scared me probably more than she was scared because I banged my head and she went, I was like, oh, it's okay. I gave her a thumbs up. I was like, I'm good. And I went to the bathroom and I just cried in the stall. Because what the fuck was that? That was so hard. I didn't do that. I gave her the thumbs up. Everything after that was a lie. I need you to know that I'm very like strong. Weakness is a sign of weakness. You know that, right? That's a man's textbook right there. Anyways, the second day we did hot air balloons. I didn't do the hot air balloon right now. I'm going to cut this one right at the start. I didn't get in the hot air balloon. My sister and mom, they did the hot air balloon. Let me tell you the conversation I had with the guide we met when we were there. We all have to sign a little slip, right, if we're doing it. And then I was like, oh, I'm not doing it. So I'll just get the breakfast you guys have here, which is like an Oreo and a coffee. And then she was doing the briefing, and then she came over to me, and she's like, hey, last question for you. Are you sure you don't want to do it? I was like, yeah, I'm really sure. And she's like, okay. No worries. And then we were all waiting there. They got to blow up the balloon. I'll put a little picture or video here of them blowing up a balloon. And then she came to me again. She was like, hey, are you sure you don't want to do it? I was like, yeah, I'm really sure. She was like, what is it? What's keeping you from doing it? I was like, it's truly just a fear, an irrational fear of the balloon. She's like, yeah, but it's like an elevator. It just goes up and then it comes down. It's not that scary. I was like, right, but the nature of an irrational fear is it doesn't make sense. What you're saying to me makes complete sense, but it's an irrational fear. So unfortunately, no amount of sense will allow me to buy out the fear I have. Do you understand that? Because that's what I'm kind of dealing with here. And she was like, all right, well, just, hey, as a reminder, there's no refunds. I was like, oh, so you don't give a fuck about me. You're just trying to make sure I know that I can't, go right back, spin around, do a little about face and be like, hey, company, I want my money back. But you have to understand, I didn't show up here and get cold feet. This is like a premeditated abort mission. I didn't just show up here and be like, I don't want to do this, right? I knew when I did the act that I didn't want to engage in this, that I was going to, not do it. And so I didn't do it. I waited at the little house lodge thing they had for, the 30 minutes while everyone was up there. And they had these two dogs and they came over and sat near me. One was getting really close to me and then I was petting him and then I stopped petting him. And then he did that thing where he puts his giant fucking Great Dane paw on my jeans and then looks at me and is like, you want to fucking maybe make a better life decision, asshole? What happened? Huh? We had a good thing going and then you stopped. I continued doing my part. Why'd you stop doing yours? I thought it was a 50-50. Feeling more like a 70-30, and that's me being generous. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And there were a lot of dogs. It's funny, dogs are like the opposite of what's going on in Greece. In Greece, there are a lot of cats everywhere for the eye to see. But in Mexico City, there's nothing but dogs. Sure, there's a little bit of cats, but it's mostly just stray dogs everywhere. And they're all so cool looking, but a lot of them are fucking just injured as fuck. I saw a dog, he was just walking around. His front leg was just bent like this. He was hobbling on 3 of his legs. I was like, oh my God. Cute but sad. Cute but sad. Then we had breakfast in a cave, and we climbed a pyramid, and we had tacos at a place called Taqueria Orinoco. I think that's how you say it. And they were phenomenal tacos. If you ever go there, get the special. That's what it's called. It's a taco. But I think it's called the special. It's special, I guess you would say, in Mexico City. And then we went to a few other places, right? Coffee shop, bookstore. And then we ended the night at a speakeasy called Handshake. And when you enter there, they give you a handshake, as advertised, huh? The next day, we went to a breakfast brunch place. It was really a pastry shop. And then they, give the whole experience. And there were these 2 young gentlemen. and they were rapping for people in Spanish. They went from table to table, kind of doing a little freestyle based on the table. I think I don't really speak Spanish. And the guys caught on to that. I don't know if it was my disposition or my demeanor or whatever, but they were like, "You don't speak Spanish, man?" I was like, no, not really." They were like, "Un poco." I was like, "Well, I think I'm doing pretty well. I don't know. I would call it poco loco." They're like, "No, that means a little." I was like, oh, right. Like, you're talking about Spanish?" They're like, "Yeah, we're talking about Spanish. I don't know what you're talking about." I was like, I think we're talking about the same thing. Yeah, no, sorry. I don't know much Spanish. That's my bad. I don't know what you thought I was talking about, but I heard un poco and did a little hand motion, and it got me thinking about something else. It means something else in the States. I'll tell you that. But no, that was really cool. Then we went to a vintage shop, and I got two shirts. This is actually one of them. It's a Star Wars shirt. The other one is like a beige shirt. It has like the word cafe, I think, right here. And it's got a bunch of like art of like 4 different pastries or whatever and coffee. It's really sick. Take my word for it. Maybe I'll wear it in an upcoming week. Then we went to a library and there were bookshelves in the air. Crazy, crazy, crazy. This is how I imagine it feels. You have a coworker and they're like telling you about their vacation, and then that's the only thing they can do to like spice it up. They show you a picture and go like, it was a crazy experience. It was amazing. Oh my god. It's like, okay, do you have anything interesting to say about it? No, it was just like, wow, like in a word. And it's like, okay, so I'm just. But no, you guys like this, right? You've told me you like the travel stuff. I don't know if this is necessarily that interesting. And then late that night, we went to a lucha libre show. That's where the luchadors fight it out. And they told us, a place where people go to get their anger out. This is basically therapy in Mexico City, because there were a lot of phrases that ended in tu madre. I won't say the first word, but yeah, there was a lot of madres being insulted, I would say. Some unsavory things being said about them. And at the end of the day, in our tour group, there was someone's birthday. And so someone went and got him my cream and caramel drizzle churros. And oh my fucking God. Holy fuck my ass, dude. Holy shit, that was good. I don't know what I'm going to do now. You know what sucks about going to these other countries? This doesn't suck. I'm saying that like being facetious. But the thing that sucks about going to like other countries is they do some stuff better than the country you live in, and then you start just saying stuff that someone that cheats would say. Like, go over to someone's house and you're like, wow, this is like a really nice place, and you're like, oh yeah, here, do you want some tea or something? They give you tea and you're like, oh my god, this is amazing tea. This tea is better than any of the tea I get at my place. Again, I love my place. Can you share the recipe for this tea? No, sorry, it's family recipe. If you were part of the family, I'd give it to you. Oh, okay, so there's a way in. I would just have to leave my current family. Not that I'm thinking about doing that. Yeah, let me think about my options. I'll get back to you. How about that? But no, it sucks because there's so many things where it's like, wait, you guys are doing this here? Well, we have smart people back home. Why the fuck haven't they figured out how to do it? What the fuck is going on? Why does our shit suck when this shit's awesome? Every single food item we had there, it was so uniquely individual and novel. It was crazy. Every taco, right? Every place you go, they have tacos, but they're all different. It's insane. And they're all amazing. Holy fucking shit, man. Anyways, but yeah, there was a library with the bookshelves in there. Very nice. Very aesthetic. Thing about Mexico, I find it has a very like get in where you fit in vibe, and that you can just drive, walk, and be places, and then people will adjust. That's the thing. Anywhere you go or drive, people just kind of go around you. I don't know how to explain that in more detail. It's just, if you ever spend maybe 10 minutes on a road in Mexico City, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You ever see this, right? A bunch of cars are in this lane going that way, and there's cars trying to go this way. I swear to God. This is what made me realize this. There was a car and then a car, right? And they had a gap in between them. A car went through that gap, and I swear to my goodness, there was maybe an inch on each side. I'm like, how the fuck are you doing that? But that's what made me think about it. Mexico has a very like get in where you fit in vibe, right? Just like wherever you think you can go, just go. And if you can't, yeah, try it. And then people will kind of work around that. Now, I can say that but not in an American. See, Americans, this is what I'm talking about, right? You go someplace and then you start looking at what you have and you're like, well, what the fuck are you doing? But no, Americans, right? They're a little like unapologetically themselves. They have that sense of individualism where they're like, I'm just going to be here, but they don't maybe have, careful. I don't know if there's a lot of self-awareness, right? Like they'll like stand in a place and then be like, I'm here. You can do that in Mexico, but then there's also a feeling that anyone that's standing in a place and being like, I'm here, is also aware of everything that's going around them, and they can kind of shift and move if needed. And that applies to everything: driving, food, language, culture. It's like if you can't fit in one for one, they'll be very accommodating. I think that's the difference. There's a lot of accommodation in terms of like emotional, right? Whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like if you feel like if you do something wrong in America, people are like, what the fuck are you doing? Where it's like if you do something wrong in Mexico, I feel like they grab you by the hips and they kind of just guide you to the right place to go. And you're like, oh, that was nice. Wow. You see how skinny my hips were, by the way? That's pretty incredible, right? But yeah, we went to these hot springs. That was beautiful. That was fucking insane. The car ride there, though, very, very shaky. It was like a 3-hour, 4-hour van ride, actually, I should call it. And I'll put a video here. That was shakier than the South Africa, like, pothole road. And I don't even think it's because the road was worse. It's just, like, the driving there is insane. Not in a bad way. It's just, like, crazy. In one area, there was, like, a fucking mile of dirt road. And it was weird. It just beautifully transitioned into the smoothest road, paved road I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? But then even on that paved road, there were just giant rocks because it was on a hillside. And so I'm like, oh, that was a landslide. And it's no one's going to pick up those stones. Those will just be there. There were some parts, right? The 2-lane road just turns into a 1-lane road. And then you just kind of honk as you're going around a corner. And that's fine. But it was a very, very rocky van ride. And I had this little mocha ole. It's basically like a iced, coffee. You know those glass Starbucks cups? It was like their version of that. And because it was such a rocky van ride, I put my entire lips around it. Just to drink it. Else it would fucking splash everywhere, all right? But I was fully, that was crazy. And then we went swimming in a cave, swam in a river, went to a coffee place the next day for breakfast, and it made me realize that they always give you ice in Mexico, which I love. Every restaurant you go to, they give you a little dope bespoke metal cup full of ice, and they're like, oh, that's ice, and then there's your drink. And it made me think, yeah, fucking bitch ass Europe forbids ice over there. Man, what the fuck is going on? Everywhere you go in Europe, it's just fucking warm liquids. I hate it. I love, again, this is me comparing, the people I've, spent some time with. But I don't like that one aspect about Europe. Fucking give me some ice with this shit, okay? But Mexico, they're always like, no, I mean, why would you not drink it with ice? It's a drink. I'm like, no, exactly. Thank you. Also, all the desserts there, all the pastries, they're sweet, but they're not over sweet. Oh, America, I don't know what the fuck we're pumping in. RFK is going to fix that. But no, everything's fucking too sweet here, man. I had a divine lava cake. Holy fucking shit. And it wasn't even that sweet, but it was like sweet enough. It was great with an iced coffee. That's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be overpowering. Again, it's the same thing. You get in where you fit in. It applies to the pastries. The pastries have found their space in this breakfast spot of your day. It belongs in the itinerary of a Mexican City day because it's not too much. You can do that in a coffee and it makes sense. Everything has so much synergy. Whereas in America, you eat fucking, a small caramel cream cold brew. Sorry. A caramel shake. A small caramel shake. I think from Noah's Bagels. Has fucking 40 grams of sugar. Shut the fuck up. You're supposed to only have 30 grams of sugar a day. What do you mean? You can get a large caramel cream cold brew from Nose Bagels. It has 4 times the amount of daily sugar you're supposed to. What the fuck are you guys doing? It tastes like shit too. Anyway, I had a margarita pizza that was divine. I had a drink called the Godfather, which was Black Label Johnny Walker with amaretto, and it had a cherry in it. Ooh, went to a castle in the park. Had an Uber driver. He was listening to Bruno Mars when we entered. He was listening to Just the Way You Are when we entered the Uber. And then even Marry You played later. It was a great playlist. He was even singing along a little bit. You could tell he was doing it. He'd look out the window. Just the way you are. When I see your face. You could hear him like, he's like a little humming. And I was going to tip him very well because he was very like, what do you call it? What do you call it when someone's like charismatic and shit? He had Riz. Fucking goddamn it. Yeah, and it was a 6 to 7 minute Uber ride. No, it was fucking 45 minutes. But he was a very hospitable. Is that what you say? I don't know. He was good. It was a good energy. I really liked him. I was going to tip him really well. But then I find out, he starts singing about he got a condo in Manhattan. He's doing a shopping spree in Paris. Apparently everything he owns is 24 karat, so I didn't give him a tip. That's stupid. Anyways, I can go more in detail about stuff, but I just wanted to give you a overview of the vacation that I went on for the past week. And hopefully, can you give a goddamn like on this video? No, that's it. Hey, that's enough. Enough, Mr. Nice Guy. It's Thanksgiving week. You should be giving me thanks, which is a like, right? So if you don't, that means you don't agree with what happened on Thanksgiving. And it is a no strings attached holiday. It's just a good old time. It doesn't have dark history, right? People I've heard, right? Diamond rings. They used to be blood diamonds, right? Because it's like you got to get them in unethical ways. But now they've been able to make them in labs. But now that you're able to make them in labs, people are going back to blood diamonds because they're like, well, that's the real thing. I want that. That's like vintage almost. And I think that's why more than ever people are celebrating Thanksgiving this year, because we're getting back to our roots. We're thinking, hey, it doesn't matter how problematic it was. It's tradition. So let's really, sink our teeth into Thanksgiving this year. And I hope you do too by giving me a like on this video. That's something I'm thankful for you giving me likes. Huh? How about that? But if you don't give me likes, what is there to be thankful for? Nothing, right? I didn't just spend a whole week in Mexico City. No. Having a great time? No. See, so if you don't leave a like on this video, there's nothing to be grateful for in that. But thank you guys. Even though, I don't know what the fuck happened. Even though last week's, the views were down, the likes were down, the watch time was like the best in the past like 3 weeks. So I don't know I guess everyone listened to the entire episode last week. But even so, like 40 people listened. 7 likes? What are you doing? Anywho, liking the video is free 99, so make sure you do it. And free 99 is also a song I recommend you listen to. The song is good, but the music video of the song, that's what I saw first, and it's sick as hell. So go listen to Free 99. Go watch Free 99 by the Full Circle Boys. It's dope. I think the video has like 2.4 million views, and I think it came out like a month ago. So sorry, I had to speed through this because it is currently 8:07 p.m. on Monday, November 24th. And that's the day these go up, right? So what the fuck am I doing? I've just been busy, so that's my bad. So yeah, let's just cut off there and go look for all those photos that I mentioned so I can put them in this episode and post this today. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks so much. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Don't accept any blankets from anyone. That's a little sketch, I've heard. I know I said I don't know much about geography, but I know just enough about history to know that, yeah, those blankets have smallpox. So don't do that. But what you should do is leave a like on this video. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And I'll talk to you next week. Okay?